Ladies and gentlemen, sons and daughters of the Most High God, there comes a moment in every believer's life when comfort becomes a cage and potential begins to whisper, "There's more." You feel it in your spirit. You're not where you used to be, but you're not yet where God is calling you. And deep down, you know, it's time to move. This message isn't for those who want to stay the same. It's for the ones who are tired of circling the same wilderness, who are done dressing wounds God already healed, and who are ready to step boldly into the next level of His purpose. God didn't bring you this far to leave you standing still. He's been preparing you in the dark for what He's about to reveal in the light. So today I challenge you to lean in with expectation, because the shift has already begun. It's time to silence doubt, drop the baggage and move, not just emotionally, but spiritually, purposefully, and prophetically, into the next level of God's divine plan for your life. You know there's a stirring that happens inside of you before anything ever shifts outside of you. It's subtle at first, a whisper in your spirit, a low hum of restlessness in a place that used to feel comfortable. That job you once prayed for no longer fulfills you. That circle of friends you once laughed with now feels like they can't hear your spirit. You're going through the motions, but something inside you knows this isn't it anymore. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's often God's first signal that it's time to move into the next level of His plan for your life. You see, God speaks in seasons, and when a season is up, everything around you starts to shift, not to punish you, but to position you. That uneasiness you're feeling, that boredom, that sudden realization that what once brought you peace now brings you tension. That's the sign. It's not always thunder and lightning. It's a divine discontent that says, "There's more." But here's the thing, many of us miss our next level because we keep trying to make the current level stretch beyond its expiration date. We keep rehearsing old habits, clinging to expired relationships, and investing in assignments that God has already signed off on. We confuse comfort with calling and familiarity with fruitfulness, and I get it, change is scary. But can I tell you something? Being stuck is scarier. God is not obligated to bless where He no longer is. And when He begins to withdraw His peace from a place, it's because His presence is guiding you toward a new one. That shift isn't punishment, it's promotion, but you can't embrace what's next if your hands are still holding on to what's now. There was a time when what you're living right now was the next level. It was a blessing. You cried tears of joy to enter it. You fasted and prayed for it, but now the cloud has moved and God is inviting you to move with it. The children of Israel had to follow the cloud by day and the fire by night. They couldn't just set up camp and expect the presence to stay put. That's not how growth works. Growth moves, and listen, the enemy loves when you mistake stillness for safety. He loves it when you stay in a relationship just because it's not that toxic. He loves it when you stay in a job just because it pays the bills. He loves it when you bury your gifts just because stepping out seems too risky. But what He's really afraid of is you waking up one day and saying, "I'm done living beneath what God has promised me." I need you to stop apologizing for outgrowing things. You're not arrogant. You're not ungrateful. You're just being obedient. You are evolving. And when God starts calling you into new territory, you're going to have to disappoint some people who are comfortable with the old version of you. That's okay. Growth requires disruption. Can we talk about what it feels like to outgrow a place spiritually? You can sit in the same church pew, sing the same songs, serve on the same team, but something inside you is craving deeper waters. That's not rebellion. That's a new level of revelation. That's a sign that God is awakening your spirit for something greater. Some of you are outgrowing mindsets. You used to settle for just getting by, but now you want legacy. You used to ask God for survival, but now you're asking Him for strategy. That's growth. That's the stretching of the Spirit. That's the evidence that God's hand is still on you. But with every stretch comes a choice. Will I stay where it's safe, or will I follow God into what's next? Even if it's unfamiliar, don't let the fear of the unknown trap you in a place that no longer fits who you're becoming. You were never meant to stay hidden forever. You were never meant to play small. You were never meant to spend your whole life surviving when God has called you to thrive. There is destiny in you that won't be activated until you step into new territory. Do you know what happens to a seed when it's outgrown the soil it was planted in? It breaks, it pushes, it cracks through the dirt, that breaking isn't the end, it's the beginning. Some of you have been feeling like everything around you is shaking, like things are falling apart. But what if things aren't falling apart? What if they're just breaking open? You're in transition, and transitions are messy. But God is not intimidated by your mess. He's using it. He's stretching you. He's expanding your capacity. He's proving that you don't need the applause, the platform, or the permission of people to move forward. All you need is His voice saying, "Go." This next level won't come with a manual. It will come with a move. You won't always have clarity, but you'll have confirmation. You won't always feel ready, but you'll be equipped. You won't always feel strong, but His strength will be made perfect in your weakness. That's how you know it's Him, because it will be beyond your ability but aligned with your calling, and I know you've been through some things. I know you've questioned if you're even worthy of more. The enemy has tried to make you believe that your past disqualifies you from your future. But the devil is a liar. Your story doesn't end in the wilderness. God brought you out so He could bring you in. You didn't survive just to stay stuck. You survived because God has something next for you. And it starts when you stop pretending you belong in a space that no longer matches your growth. Don't mourn what God is trying to move you from. Don't romanticize Egypt when Canaan is calling your name. You can't be loyal to a level that God is releasing you from. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is let go. Let go of who you were. Let go of where you've been. Let go of the fear that says you'll fail. Because what's ahead of you is so much greater than what's behind you. And the only thing standing between you and your next level is the decision to move. So move. You know what I've learned. The next level of your life requires a new identity. And not a new you like the version you try to create for social media or the one you curate to be accepted by others. I mean the version of you that God already sees, already knows, already ordained. But you can't step into that version if you're still clinging to the labels from your past. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you to delay you. All he has to do is convince you that your past defines you. He'll whisper that because you failed before, you'll fail again. That because you were broken once, you're still broken. That because people saw you a certain way, that must be who you really are. And if you believe him, you'll wear those labels like badges: unworthy, insecure, damaged, not enough, and you'll start to live beneath the calling God has placed on your life. But I need you to understand something right now. You are not what happened to you. You are not the trauma. You are not the divorce. You are not the addiction. You are not the abortion. You are not the mistakes. You are not the secret you swore you'd take to your grave. God already saw all of that, and he still called you. He still anointed you. He still said, "You're mine." It doesn't matter what they called you. It doesn't matter what you called yourself. When God speaks your name, he speaks to your identity, not your history. Some of you have been walking around with spiritual amnesia. You've forgotten who you are because you've been too busy trying to survive who you were. You've been trying to make peace with a version of yourself that God already delivered you from. But let me tell you something. Freedom begins when you stop trying to edit your story and start owning it. Yes, you messed up. Yes, you took some wrong turns. Yes, there are chapters you're not proud of. But guess what? God doesn't throw people away. He rewrites stories. He takes the very things we try to hide and uses them as evidence of his grace. The labels people used to shame you, God uses to shape you. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you don't need anyone's permission to be free. You don't need them to apologize. You don't need them to approve. You don't need closure from people who were never called to understand your calling. You just need to agree with what God says about you. When God gave you purpose, he factored in your dysfunction. That means your destiny was never dependent on your perfection. It was dependent on your obedience. And that's why you're still here, not because you did everything right, but because God's grace never gave up on you. But now it's time for you to stop giving more power to your past than you give to your purpose. Some of you are still living in the shadow of old decisions, still trying to prove you're not who you used to be, still wearing masks just to be accepted. But here's the truth: your healing is on the other side of your honesty. You have to be willing to confront the lies, the lie that you'll always be broken, the lie that you're not smart enough, the lie that you're too far gone. Those lies keep you small, they keep you quiet. They keep you locked in shame, and shame will always silence the sound of your destiny if you let it. But shame has no authority here. Shame has no place in this next level. The blood of Jesus didn't just save you from hell. It saved you from the prison of who you used to be. So stop shrinking, stop hiding, stop apologizing for being someone who needed grace. We all need it every day, and God gives it freely. Not because we earn it, but because he loves us. The enemy wants you stuck in cycles of guilt, so you'll never step into cycles of glory. But the only way to break that cycle is to stop identifying with the lie and start identifying with the truth. And the truth is, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are chosen. You are redeemed. You are set apart. You are called. You've been rehearsing old narratives in your mind for so long that you don't even realize you've started living according to them. But God is calling you to renew your mind. That means you're going to have to talk to yourself differently. You're going to have to look at that mirror and speak to who you're becoming, not just who you see. You're going to have to declare over yourself, I am not my past. I am God's promise. Some of us were labeled early in life. Labeled by family members who didn't understand our light, labeled by a system that overlooked us, labeled by pain that tried to name us before we could find our voice. But you don't have to carry those labels anymore. Tear them off. They were never yours to begin with, and even if people try to reattach them, you don't have to wear them. You've outgrown them. What God is calling you into won't make sense to people who only know who you were. But don't let that stop you. Your identity is not up for debate. It's already been settled in heaven. You were knit together with intention, formed with fire, built with breakthrough in mind, and I get it. It's hard to believe sometimes, especially when the people around you still treat you like the version of yourself that no longer exists. Especially when you still have moments of relapse, when you fall back into thinking you're not enough. But I want to remind you that God isn't just after your victory, he's after your wholeness. He doesn't just want to elevate your platform, he wants to elevate your soul, because you can't carry the weight of your calling if you're still questioning your identity. The next level demands that you know exactly who you are in him, not in titles, not in followers, not in applause, but in him. So this is your permission to be free, to show up as the healed version of you. To stop performing and start walking in power, to stop explaining and start executing, to stop replaying and start releasing. You're not here by accident. You're not breathing by mistake. God is not recycling your past. He's revealing your future. But the version of you that gets to walk in that future cannot be wearing yesterday's shame. So take it off, all of it. The guilt, the regret, the false humility, the imposter syndrome. It's time to shed the skin of survival and step into the robe of purpose. Because God's next level for your life is waiting for who you truly are, not who you pretend to be, not who you used to be, not who they think you are, but who he created you to be. Now move forward like you know who you are. You're not always going to have the full picture before God calls you to move. And I know that's hard for some of us, especially those of us who like control, who like to know what's next, who like to map out the destination before taking the first step. But God doesn't operate on our terms. He's not waiting for you to be comfortable. He's waiting for you to trust him, and that kind of trust, the kind that moves without full clarity, the kind that steps into the unknown, that's called faith. Faith is not just believing God can do something. Faith is moving like you know he will. It's walking even when the ground doesn't look stable. It's building even when you don't have all the materials. It's applying when you don't feel qualified. It's saying yes when all the voices in your head are screaming no. Faith is not neat, it's messy, it's risky, it's vulnerable, and yet it's the only way to unlock the next level of what God has for your life. We love the idea of purpose, but we struggle with the process. Because purpose often looks like walking through doors we didn't plan to open, being stretched in ways we didn't expect, and showing up in places we never imagined. And sometimes God will withhold details on purpose, not to confuse you, but to protect you. Because if he showed you everything at once, you might try to change the plan, edit the process, or avoid it altogether. So what does God do? He gives you just enough light for the step you're on, just enough provision for today, just enough clarity to make the next move, and that requires trust, not just any trust. but radical trust. The kind of trust that says, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I know you, and that's enough. And let's be honest, faith is easy to preach, but hard to practice, especially when your last step of obedience didn't end the way you thought it would. Especially when you're still healing from the last yes you gave. Especially when the unknown feels bigger than your courage. But hear me, just because it's unfamiliar doesn't mean it's unsafe. God is already in the place He's calling you to. And He's not asking you to go there alone. He's going with you. Sometimes the next level requires you to walk away from what you understand so that you can walk into what's divine. God told Abraham, go to a land I will show you, not a land with coordinates. Not a land with a Pinterest board or a 10-year plan. Just go. And what did Abraham do? He moved without a map, without certainty, without guarantees. He moved, and because he moved, he became the father of many nations. Some of you are standing on the edge of your next, but you're paralyzed because it doesn't make sense. You're waiting for signs, waiting for confirmation, waiting for a miracle to drop in your lap. But what if the miracle is waiting on you? What if the thing you've been praying for is on the other side of your obedience? We say we're waiting on God, but a lot of the time, God is waiting on us to stop analyzing every step and start acting on His word. Waiting on us to trust Him even when the details are blurry. Waiting on us to trade our fear for faith, not blind faith, but bold faith. The kind that says, I may not know the outcome, but I trust the one who does. And let me tell you something, obedience is expensive. It will cost you your comfort, it will cost you your plan, it will cost you your pride, but what you gain will be so much greater. You gain strength, you gain intimacy with God, you gain a testimony. You gain territory. The next level of your life is hidden in your yes, not your convenient yes, not your half-hearted yes, but your full surrender. Your yes that says, God, even if I have to walk this out in the dark, I'll do it because I trust you more than I trust my fear. It takes real faith to move when the outcome is uncertain. It takes real faith to build when the resources are few. It takes real faith to show up when no one is clapping, when no one understands, when the doors haven't opened yet. And that kind of faith in motion, that's what God honors. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never move. If you wait until everything makes sense, you'll stay stuck. Growth doesn't happen in the realm of clarity. It happens in the realm of courage. You will have to make moves afraid. You will have to walk when you still have questions. You will have to trust God when your flesh is screaming for proof. That's why God sometimes calls you away from the familiar, not to punish you, but to grow you. Because comfort doesn't build faith, obedience does, and every time you obey, you're telling heaven, I trust the builder more than I trust the blueprint. You're telling God, your voice matters more than my fear. You're saying, I'll walk even when I don't know where the road leads, because I know who's walking with me. And don't let the lack of applause make you doubt your direction. Not everyone will understand your obedience. Not everyone will see what God showed you, but that's okay. This walk of faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, it's lonely. It's just you and God, moving through unfamiliar territory with only His word to hold on to. But isn't that the beauty of it, that the Creator of the universe is guiding you step by step, that He trusts you enough to call you into the unknown, that He believes in your yes even when you're shaking? You don't need all the answers. You don't need a 10-point plan. You just need enough faith to take the next step. That's how you unlock what God has prepared for you, not by standing still, not by playing it safe, but by moving in faith. So don't wait until you feel fearless to move forward. Move while your knees are shaking. Move while your voice is trembling. Move while your heart is still catching up. Because with every step, your faith gets stronger. With every step, your purpose gets clearer. With every step, heaven takes notice. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's just asking you to trust Him. And if you can trust Him in the middle of the unknown, you'll look back one day and realize that what felt like a risk was actually divine alignment. That what felt like a loss was really preparation. That what didn't make sense at the time was God setting you up for something greater than you imagined. Sometimes the next level isn't just about what you're walking into, it's about who you're walking with. Because let's be real, not everyone in your life right now is equipped to handle the version of you God is developing. Some people are tied to who you were, not who you're becoming. And if you're not careful, you'll keep shrinking your spirit to stay connected to circles that are too small for your calling. One of the hardest truths to embrace on this journey is that elevation often brings separation. I know that's not what we want to hear. We want to believe that everyone who started with us will finish with us, but that's not always how God works. Sometimes the very people you love the most can't handle your next level. And it's not because they're evil or jealous. It's because they were assigned to a season, not your destiny. When God starts stretching you, when He starts pulling you into deeper levels of obedience, faith, and purpose, it exposes things. It exposes your relationships. It exposes your conversations. It exposes the alignment or misalignment of the voices around you, and you've got to pay attention to that, because the wrong voices can sabotage the right vision. You can't afford to have people in your ear who don't speak to your spirit. You can't afford to surround yourself with folks who feed your fear more than your faith. You can't keep inviting people to the front row of your life just because they've been around the longest. Longevity doesn't equal loyalty to your purpose. Some people love the old you, the version that didn't know her worth, the version that said yes to everything just to keep the peace, the version that dimmed her light to make others comfortable. But now God is calling you into more, and you've got to decide. Who gets to come with me, and who do I need to bless from a distance? You're not being rude. You're being responsible. Because when God starts shifting your identity, He'll also shift your community. That's why some of the people you used to vibe with don't feel the same anymore. The conversations are different. The connection feels off. That's not pettiness. That's protection. God is pruning your circle so He can make room for people who are aligned with your future, not your past. You need voices that see what God is doing in you, even before it's fully visible. You need people who remind you of the promise when you feel like quitting. You need folks in your corner who can war in prayer, call you higher, and speak life into your dry places. Because let me tell you something. There will be moments in this journey when your spirit is tired, when the vision looks blurry, when doubt creeps in, and in those moments the voices around you will either push you toward purpose or pull you back into fear. That's why community matters. That's why alignment is everything. Because what's being birthed in you is too sacred to be surrounded by insecurity, negativity, or passivity. This is not the time for lukewarm connections. This is the time to be intentional, to be protective of your space, to guard your mind, your spirit, and your energy. Some of us are trying to carry people who were never meant to go where we're going. We're dragging dead weight, trying to convince people to see what God is doing in our lives. But you don't have time to explain your calling to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. You don't have time to defend your growth to people who refuse to grow themselves. You don't need validation from people who weren't in the room when God spoke over you. I know it hurts to let people go. I know it feels like betrayal, but sometimes release is a form of reverence. You honor what God is doing in your life by making space for what and who He's sending next. And sometimes the separation doesn't mean you stop loving them. It just means you stop leading with them. You can love people without attaching your future to them. You have to ask yourself, does this connection strengthen my spirit or stunt my growth? Do they challenge me to become better, or do they constantly remind me of who I used to be? Do they fan the flames of my calling, or do they pour water on it every time I try to step out? And can I go a little deeper? You also have to be willing to examine the voice you're being in someone else's life. Are you the person who speaks life, who encourages, who uplifts, or are you the one who sows seeds of doubt and discouragement? This isn't just about finding aligned voices, it's about becoming one. Because this next level isn't just about who surrounds you, it's about what you're pouring into others too. You've got to be the kind of friend, sister, brother, mentor, or partner that you're praying for. The kind that calls out the gold in people even when they can't see it themselves. The kind that says, I see your weakness, but I also see your anointing, and I'm not going to let you give up. But back to the other side of that, we've got to stop giving full access to people who only show up for the easy parts of us, people who want the highlight reel but not the healing process, people who want your light but can't handle your shadows. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see all of you and still speak life. People who don't just clap when you win, but intercede when you're weary. You're not called to walk this out alone. Even Jesus had a circle. But notice this. He had the crowd, the disciples, and then the inner circle. Everyone doesn't get the same access, and that's not pride, that's wisdom. So maybe this is the season where God is challenging you to reevaluate your circle. To stop forcing connection where there's no covenant, to stop confusing attachment with alignment, to stop holding space for people who no longer hold the capacity to walk with you. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to evolve beyond conversations, spaces, and relationships that no longer match your assignment. That's not betrayal, that's obedience. You can't carry everyone into your next level. Some people are called to cheer from the sidelines, not run the race with you. And hear me, there's nothing wrong with releasing someone in love. That doesn't mean you hate them. It just means you honor the shift, you honor the call. You recognize that what God is building in your life requires clarity, maturity, and protection. And sometimes that means letting go of familiar voices so you can finally hear God's voice clearly. Your circle in this season should confirm what God has already whispered in private. They should echo heaven. They should sharpen you, they should stretch you, and they should remind you that you're not crazy for believing in something bigger than yourself. So if you've been feeling the nudge to shift your relationships, trust it. That's not rejection. That's redirection. God is preparing you for something new, and He's clearing the room so the right people can walk in. People who won't just tolerate your growth, but celebrate it. People who won't be intimidated by your light, but will help you shine even brighter. Because at the end of the day, this next level can't be built with broken agreements, half-hearted loyalty, or shallow support. It has to be built on truth, trust, and spiritual alignment. There comes a time when prayer is no longer about asking, it becomes about activating. A moment when you realize that God has already given you what you need. The anointing is there, the authority is there, the calling is there, but what's missing is your move. You've been waiting on a sign, waiting on approval, waiting on the perfect moment. But what if heaven is waiting on you? At some point, you've got to realize that breakthrough doesn't come just from believing, it comes from doing. You can't just have faith in your spirit and fear in your feet. You've got to step out, you've got to move. You've got to act. The next level of your life will not manifest through passivity. It's going to take courage. It's going to take motion. It's going to take obedience that doesn't always make sense. Sometimes we want God to do all the heavy lifting while we stay in the background, hoping things magically fall into place. But purpose doesn't work like that. Purpose demands participation. God can give you the vision, but you've got to pick up the hammer and build. God can give you the idea, but you've got to put in the work. God can open the door, but you've still got to walk through it. This is the season where you stop praying for confirmation of what God already told you to do. You're not confused. You're just nervous. You're not waiting on clarity or wrestling with confidence, but God doesn't need you to be confident in yourself. He needs you to be confident in Him. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for motion. You don't need another prophetic word to tell you it's time. You don't need another person to co-sign your anointing. You don't need to ask another friend if they think it's the right time. Baby, it's time. God already spoke, and now your obedience is the key. I know it's hard. I know the unknown is intimidating. I know you're scared that if you start, you might fail. But what if the failure isn't in trying? What if the real failure is in not trying at all? You're called to more than surviving. You're called to build, to create, to release, to shift atmospheres, and that doesn't happen by accident. It happens on purpose, with purpose. Some of us have been so trained to expect disappointment that we've stopped expecting movement. We've settled into spiritual routines. We've learned how to shout, but haven't learned how to start. We've learned how to dream, but haven't learned how to do. And that's not because we don't believe God is powerful. It's because we don't fully believe He's ready to use us. But I need you to break up with that mindset. You've been equipped. The oil on your life is not random. The gifts you carry are not a coincidence. God didn't save you, heal you, restore you, and speak over you so you could sit back and play it safe. He did it so you could move, so you could walk in what He's placed inside you, so you could take territory and influence spaces for His glory. Some of you are waiting to feel strong before you start. But strength doesn't show up before the journey. It develops during it. You won't feel ready, but God will make sure you're prepared. You won't feel qualified, but He already called you, and that means you've got everything you need to begin. Maybe you've got a book in your spirit, but you haven't written a single page because you're afraid your story won't be received. Maybe you've got a ministry in your belly, but you've been doubting whether your voice carries weight. Maybe God has shown you a vision for a business, a nonprofit, a creative project, but you keep hesitating because you think someone else could do it better. But can I tell you something? God gave you the vision on purpose. He trusted you with it, and that means He intends to bring it to pass through your hands, through your mind, through your obedience. You don't need to look like anybody else. You don't need to do it the way they did it. All God is asking is that you start. The power is in your yes. The release is in your move. And no, it won't be perfect. You will stumble. You will make mistakes. You will second. Guess yourself, but God doesn't anoint perfection. He anoints willingness. He breathes on the efforts of the bold. He honors the steps of the faithful. Some of you are walking around with dormant potential. Not because God hasn't blessed you, but because you haven't activated what He gave you. You've been afraid of being seen, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being rejected. But rejection can't cancel what God already approved. Criticism can't undo what heaven has already confirmed. You're anointed not just to dream, but to build a thing that's never been done before, to show up in rooms where no one looks like you, to be the first in your family, to shift the narrative, to launch the thing, to raise the standard, to walk in fullness. Not just faith. God is not going to drag you into your destiny. You've got to cooperate with the call. You've got to stop making excuses for why you're not ready. If He called you, you're ready enough. If He assigned you, He'll align the resources, but you've got to move. Every miracle in the Bible required human action. The woman with the issue of blood had to press. Peter had to step out of the boat. The man with the withered hand had to stretch. The disciples had to launch into the deep. Faith has always required movement. The blessing follows the boldness. You want to see God move. Then you've got to move first. Not because He can't move without you, but because He's teaching you partnership. He's showing you that your steps unlock His supply, that your obedience pulls down provision, that your faith in action makes room for heaven to respond. So if you've been waiting for everything to be perfect before you begin, this is your wake-up call. Start anyway. Start scared. Start small. Start unsure. Start without the applause. Start with the little you have. Just start, because heaven responds to motion. This is the season where God is calling you off the sidelines and into the center of what He's been preparing you for all along. You've cried for it, you've prayed for it, you've fasted for it. Now it's time to move for it. Move like you know you're called. Move like you know God is backing you. Move like you believe He's already gone before you. Because He has, and if no one claps, go anyway. If no one sees it yet, build anyway. If no one believes in you, believe anyway. Because this next level of your life won't come by waiting. It will come by walking. It will come by trusting. It will come by showing up again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when it's lonely. You're not behind. You're not disqualified. You're just one bold move away from unlocking everything God has already placed within you. So take the step.